Every year, thousands of climbers attempt the world's most famous peaks. Helicopters stand by. Rescue teams wait at base camps. Emergency protocols exist. But there are mountains where none of this applies. These are summits where rescue is not difficult. It is impossible. Some are banned by governments. Others sit in places so remote that help cannot reach them. A few are so vertical that helicopters cannot approach. And some exist in weather so violent that even the most advanced technology fails. This documentary explores 9 mountains where climbers face a single, terrifying reality. If something goes wrong, no one is coming. These are not the tallest peaks. They are not always the most famous. But they share one characteristic: isolation so extreme, terrain so hostile, or restrictions so absolute that rescue infrastructure does not exist. This is not about bravery. This is about the edge of human reach, where survival depends entirely on your own ability to get down. Gangkhar Puensum stands at 7,570 meters on the border of Bhutan and China. It is the highest unclimbed mountain on Earth. But it is not unclimbed because it is too difficult. It is unclimbed because it is illegal. In 1994, the Bhutanese government banned all climbing on mountains above 6,000 meters. The reason was not environmental. It was spiritual. Local communities believe that summits are sacred, home to gods and spirits that must not be disturbed. Gangkhar Puensum, whose name translates to White Peak of the Three Spiritual Brothers, sits at the center of this belief. The mountain is visible from populated valleys. Climbers can see it, but they cannot go near it. The ban is absolute. There are no climbing permits, no exceptions, no legal routes to the summit. Because climbing is forbidden, there is no rescue infrastructure, no Sherpas, no base camps, no helicopter staging areas, no medical evacuation protocols. If someone were to attempt an illegal climb and get injured, they would face 2 outcomes: arrest if rescued, or abandonment if not. The Bhutanese government does not maintain rescue teams for a mountain no one is allowed to climb. The geographic location complicates this further. Gangkhar Puensum sits on a disputed border between Bhutan and China. The northern slopes fall into Chinese territory, where the political situation makes access equally difficult. Most unclimbed mountains remain untouched because they are too technical, too remote, or too dangerous. Gangkhar Puensum is none of these things. It remains unclimbed because humans have agreed, by law, that it should stay that way. This is not a mountain waiting to be conquered. It is a mountain that may never be climbed. And if the Bhutanese government maintains its position, Gangkhar Puensum will hold its title forever. The highest point on Earth that no human has ever stood upon. Not because they couldn't, but because they weren't allowed to try. Antarctica is the most isolated continent on Earth. Mount Tyree is one of its most dangerous peaks. It stands at 4,852 meters in the Sentinel Range, just 13 kilometers from Mount Vinson, Antarctica's highest mountain. Vinson has limited commercial climbing infrastructure, guided expeditions, established routes, occasional helicopter support. Tyree has almost none of this. The mountain is steeper, more technical, and far colder. Temperatures regularly drop below -40 degrees Celsius. At that temperature, exposed skin freezes in minutes. Metal becomes brittle. Breathing hurts. The terrain is a mix of vertical rock and ice faces. Sharp ridges. Overhanging cornices that collapse without warning. Unlike Vinson, which can be climbed via snow slopes, Tyree demands technical skill on nearly every meter of ascent. But the real problem is not the mountain itself. It is the location. The nearest permanent base is Union Glacier Camp, over 1,000 kilometers away across ice. Beyond that, the nearest hospital is in Punta Arenas, Chile, more than 3,000 kilometers across the Southern Ocean. Helicopters in Antarctica operate under strict fuel range limits. A rescue flight to Tyree would push those limits to the edge, and that assumes good weather. Storms in the Sentinel Range can last for weeks. When winds hit, visibility drops to 0. Helicopters are grounded. Communication becomes impossible. Even if a helicopter could reach the mountain, The terrain makes landing nearly impossible. Tyree's slopes are too steep, the ridges too narrow, the ice too unstable. A helicopter cannot hover safely in high winds at altitude on a vertical face. If a climber is injured high on Mount Tyree, extraction is not just difficult, it is often physically impossible. Climbers here must be completely self-sufficient. They carry all their food, fuel, and medical supplies. They set up their own camps. They navigate their own routes. There are no Sherpas, no fixed ropes, no rescue teams waiting below. If something goes wrong, they have two options: get down on their own or do not get down at all. Mount Tyree sits in a place where the nearest help is farther away than the International Space Station. Astronauts in orbit are closer to a hospital than climbers on this mountain. This is not hyperbole. It is geography. On Tyree, climbers are effectively alone on another planet, and the mountain does not care. In 1977, British climbers Doug Scott and Chris Bonington made the first ascent of Baintha Brakk. The mountain is known by another name, the Ogre. It stands at 7,285 meters in the Karakoram range of Pakistan. It is a towering spire of granite, vertical walls, knife-edge ridges, overhanging ice. Scott and Bonington reached the summit on July 13th. On the descent, during an abseil, Doug Scott fell. He broke both legs. They were still near the summit, over 7,000 meters high. Helicopter rescue was impossible. The altitude was too high, the terrain too steep and convoluted, the weather too unstable. Scott had no choice. He crawled. For 7 days, he descended on his knees through storms and ice. Bonington and their teammates helped lower him down vertical sections, but much of the descent required Scott to drag himself across rock and snow. He crawled through a blizzard, through pain that most people cannot imagine. He crawled because there was no other option. The Ogre is not a mountain that allows for aerial rescue. Its structure is too complex. The summit tower rises in a series of steep granite walls and narrow ridges. There are no flat sections, no places for a helicopter to land or hover safely. Even today, with modern rescue technology, the equation has not changed. Helicopters still cannot reach the upper sections of the Ogre. The shape of the mountain prevents it. Since 1977, the mountain has been climbed only a handful of times. Most attempts end in failure. Some end in tragedy. In 2001, a Japanese climber fell to his death on the same route Scott and Bonington climbed. In 2012, 2 climbers were injured on the descent and had to be evacuated from lower on the mountain, but only after they had descended far enough for a helicopter to reach them. Above a certain altitude on the Ogre, anyone who is injured must self-rescue or die. This is not a figure of speech. It is a fact. The mountain's reputation as a man-eater remains intact. Doug Scott survived because he was strong enough to crawl for a week. Not everyone is. The Ogre does not forgive weakness, and it does not offer second chances. Latok I rises 7,145 meters in the Karakoram range of Pakistan. The mountain has been climbed, but its north ridge remains one of the hardest challenges in mountaineering. The ridge is a 2,500-meter blade of rock and ice that rises almost vertically from the glacier. It is razor-sharp, narrow, exposed. There are no flat sections, no ledges wide enough for a helicopter to land, no safe hover points. The climbing is a mix of vertical rock, overhanging ice, and knife-edge ridges where a fall means death. Most attempts on the North Ridge end in failure. In 2018, Russian climber Alexander Gukov and his partner Sergei Glazunov attempted the ridge. Glazunov fell and died. Gukov was stranded at 6,200 meters for 6 days. He was out of food, out of fuel, suffering from frostbite and altitude sickness. A Pakistani military helicopter launched a rescue operation. The pilot performed a long-line rescue, hovering the helicopter while a rescuer descended on a cable to extract Gukov. At that altitude, in those conditions, it was considered a miracle. Long-line rescue is one of the most dangerous operations a helicopter can perform. Thin air reduces rotor efficiency. The helicopter struggles to maintain altitude. Winds are unpredictable. Downdrafts can slam the aircraft into the mountain. The margin for error is zero. Above 6,000 meters, helicopters operate at the edge of their performance limits. The 2018 rescue of Gangkhar worked once. Pilots who flew the mission said they would not attempt it again. The conditions were too dangerous. The risks too high. Since then, the north ridge of Latok I has seen more attempts. None have succeeded. The ridge remains largely unclimbed. Climbers who go there know the reality. If something goes wrong above 6,000 meters, they are functionally beyond help. A helicopter might reach them once in a perfect set of conditions. But no one should count on it. On Latok's north ridge, rescue is not impossible. It is just so unlikely that climbers are told to assume it will not happen and plan accordingly. Jannu stands at 7,710 meters in eastern Nepal, near the Kanchenjunga Massif. It is also known as Kumbhakarna, named after a demon from Hindu mythology. The mountain has been climbed, but its north face is considered one of the most technically difficult walls in the Himalayas. The face rises over 1,500 meters, nearly a vertical mile of rock and ice. Overhanging ice. Vertical rock pitches. Constant avalanche danger. Unlike Everest, where the challenge comes from altitude and weather, Jannu's difficulty is pure technicality. Everest can be climbed with determination and acclimatization. Jannu requires advanced climbing skill on terrain where mistakes are fatal. If a climber is injured on the north face, rescue is physically impossible. The terrain is too steep for a team to carry someone down. On a vertical wall, there is no way to lower an incapacitated person safely. Other climbers can only watch. Helicopters cannot approach a sheer cliff. When a helicopter flies near a vertical face, downdrafts slam it into the rock. There are no hover points, no landing zones, no way to extract someone from the wall. Jannu receives far fewer climbing attempts than famous 8,000-meter peaks like Everest or K2. The success rate is correspondingly low. There are no commercial expeditions, no fixed ropes, no Sherpa support, no rescue staging areas at base camp. Climbers on Jannu are alone. The mountain sits in a remote region of Nepal, far from the popular trekking routes of the Everest area. Access requires long approaches through difficult terrain. Logistics are expensive. Permits are difficult. Support is minimal. Most teams that attempt Jannu turn back. The few that succeed do so with the knowledge that if something goes wrong on the face, they are beyond help. If they cannot move, they cannot survive. On Jannu's north face, rescue is not a matter of difficulty. It is a matter of physics. You cannot carry someone down a vertical wall, and no machine can pull them off. Machapuchare rises 6,993 meters in the Annapurna range of Nepal. Its name means fish tail, in Nepali, named for its distinctive twin peak shape. It is one of the most recognizable mountains in the world, and it is the only peak in Nepal that is completely forbidden to climbers. Machapuchare is sacred to the Hindu god Shiva. Local communities believe it is his earthly home, and to set foot on the summit would be a desecration. In 1957, a British expedition was granted permission to attempt the mountain. The team reached within 50 meters of the summit. Then they stopped. Out of respect for the mountain's sacred status, they turned back without completing the climb. Following this expedition, the Nepalese government made the ban permanent. No climbing permits have been issued since. The mountain is visible from the city of Pokhara, one of Nepal's largest cities. It dominates the skyline. Tourists photograph it daily. Locals see it from their homes. It is close enough to see, yet permanently off-limits to humans. Because climbing is illegal, there is no rescue infrastructure. No base camps. No permits. No established routes. No Sherpa networks. No helicopter staging areas. If someone were to attempt an illegal climb and become injured, they would face arrest or abandonment. The Nepalese government does not maintain rescue protocols for a mountain no one is allowed to climb. Like Gangkhar Puensum in Bhutan, Machapuchare remains unclimbed not because of difficulty, but because of law. The difference is cultural. Gangkhar Puensum is protected by a national policy that applies to all high peaks. Machapuchare is protected by the belief of an entire community. It is not just a mountain. It is a deity, and deities are not meant to be conquered. Machapuchare may be the only mountain in the world that remains permanently unclimbed by human agreement. Not because climbers cannot reach it, but because they have chosen not to. And that choice is unlikely to ever change. Gasherbrum IV stands at 7,925 meters on the Pakistan-China border in the Karakoram range. It sits just below the 8,000-meter mark. But climbers say it is harder than most peaks above that threshold. Harder than Cho Oyu. Harder than Manaslu. Some say it is harder than K2. The mountain's west face is known as the Shining Wall. It is a nearly vertical expanse of mirror-smooth rock and ice that rises over 2,000 meters. The wall is so steep that snow does not accumulate. Ice clings in thin sheets. Rock is polished by wind. Climbers who attempt it face extreme technical difficulty at extreme altitude. The combination is lethal. Helicopters cannot approach the Shining Wall. The vertical face creates unpredictable updrafts and wind shear. There are no ledges. No safe hover points. No way to get close without risking a crash. Even at lower altitudes, the wall's geometry makes aerial rescue impossible. Gasherbrum IV has been summited fewer than 10 times. Most attempts end in failure. Some end in death. Climbers who fall or become incapacitated on the Shining Wall are almost never recovered. The altitude makes body retrieval physically exhausting. The terrain makes it logistically impossible. Teams cannot safely reach bodies on a vertical wall at 7,000 meters. Bodies remain where they fall. In 1986, 2 Polish climbers died on the west face. Their bodies are still there. In 2019, a team attempted the Shining Wall and turned back after reaching 6,800 meters. They described the climbing as beyond anything we've experienced. Gasherbrum IV represents the extreme edge of technical high-altitude climbing. It combines the altitude of the death zone with the technicality of a big wall climb. No ropes are fixed. No camps are stocked. No rescue teams wait below. Climbers are entirely on their own. If they fall, they die. If they become injured, they die. If they move too slowly and run out of time, they die. There is no safety net. And there never will be. Sauyr Zhotasy stands at 3,840 meters on the border between Kazakhstan and China. Most climbers have never heard of it. It is not famous. It is not on anyone's bucket list. But it is one of the most prominent peaks in Central Asia. And rescue here is impossible, not because of the terrain, but because of politics. The mountain sits in the Sauyr Range, a remote chain that straddles a heavily militarized border. This is not a border you can cross casually. It is monitored by military patrols. Restricted zones extend for kilometers on both sides. Unauthorized movement triggers immediate response. Despite its moderate altitude, Sauyr Zhotasy is steep and remote. The terrain is rugged. The weather is harsh. Access routes cross restricted military zones. But the real danger is bureaucratic. If a climber were injured on the mountain, organizing a rescue would require permission from 2 governments. Kazakhstan and China do not have streamlined cross-border rescue agreements for mountaineering. Coordination would require navigating military protocols, diplomatic channels, and bureaucratic systems that do not prioritize climbers. The process could take days or weeks. By then, it would be too late. The mountain has almost no climbing history. There are no established routes, no base camps, no local guides, no records of successful ascents, no infrastructure of any kind. It is too low to attract elite alpinists chasing 8,000-meter peaks. Too obscure to have commercial interest. Too politically sensitive to allow casual exploration. Sauyr Zhotasy is a mountain so forgotten that if someone went missing there, no one might even know. There are no climbing communities tracking attempts. No expedition companies running trips. No local populations with knowledge of the area. If you disappeared on Sauyr Zhotasy, you would simply be gone. Some mountains are dangerous because of altitude. Some because of weather. Some because of technical difficulty. Sauyr Zhotasy is dangerous because of human borders. It is a reminder that not all barriers are natural, and not all dangers come from the mountain itself. Devil's Thumb rises 2,767 meters on the Stikine ice cap, straddling the border between Alaska and British Columbia. It is not a high mountain, but it sits in one of the stormiest regions in North America. The altitude is deceptive. What kills climbers here is not the elevation. It is the weather. Storms roll in from the Pacific Ocean constantly. Hurricane-force winds. Whiteout conditions. Temperatures that swing wildly between freezing and thawing. The ice cap is a breeding ground for extreme weather systems. When storms hit, visibility drops to zero. Helicopters are grounded. Rescue teams cannot reach the mountain. Climbers are stranded. In 1977, writer Jon Krakauer attempted Devil's Thumb as a young man. He spent weeks pinned down by weather, waiting for a climbing window that never opened. He later documented the experience, describing the psychological toll of isolation and storm. Krakauer eventually turned back without summiting. He is not alone. Climbers on Devil's Thumb face a unique problem: time. Storms can last for weeks. Food runs out. Fuel runs out. Patience runs out. The ice conditions make climbing exceptionally dangerous. Cornices collapse. Seracs shift. Crevasses hide under fresh snow. But the real danger is being trapped. Some climbers have waited 3 weeks for a single clear day. They left without it. The weather does not care about preparation. It does not care about skill. It simply does not stop. Helicopters cannot fly in zero visibility with winds strong enough to knock them from the sky. Rescue teams cannot reach a mountain they cannot see. Even at lower altitudes, the weather makes extraction impossible. On Devil's Thumb, the mountain does not kill you. The sky does. It buries you in snow. It pins you in your tent. It drains your supplies and leaves you no choice but to retreat or die waiting. This is the 9th mountain on this list. And like the others, it shares one reality: if something goes wrong, no one is coming. Not because help does not exist, but because the weather will not let them through. 9 mountains. 9 different reasons rescue fails. Legal bans. Religious prohibitions. Extreme isolation. Vertical terrain. Political borders. Catastrophic weather. These are not theoretical places. People climb them. People get injured. People die. Modern technology has created an illusion of safety on famous peaks like Everest. Helicopters. Satellite phones. GPS. But most of the world's mountains do not have that infrastructure. When climbers go to these places, they are choosing to exist beyond the reach of help. Mountaineering has always been about self-reliance. On certain peaks, that is not a philosophy. It is the only option. On these summits, if something goes wrong, no one is coming.